Recording in progress.
Welcome to the Design Review Board meeting of November 1st, 2022. First thing I'd like to do after calling the meeting to order is ask all of us to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, I'd like to introduce our staff and our board members.
Shubha Jangam, Senior Planner.
Michael Cardiman, Planner 2.
Doug Haney, Bethany Way.
Reed Casey, Bethany Road.
Charlie Roberts, Freemanville Road.
Ken Warlick, Kibworth Road.
Rachel Greathouse, Hickory Flat.
Thank you, everyone. Next, I'd like to get an approval, motion and a vote to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay,
Second.
2 seconds. That makes it really done. So the agenda is approved for this evening with no amendments. Next, I'd like to get approval of the minutes of last month's meeting of We voted.
Everybody needs to say aye.
Yeah, I think they did. Maybe they didn't.
All
Aye.
those in favor?
Aye. Just got 3 seconds and no vote. Thank you. Got to have a vote. Next, we'll vote on the approval of last month's minutes, the minutes of Tuesday, October 4th, 2022. Any corrections, additions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from last month's meeting.
Can we get a second?
No,
Second.
Now we'll vote. I'll vote, and it's unanimous. So we've approved the minutes from last month. Now we would normally move to demolitions, but we have none this month. So no demolitions. So we'll move to courtesy reviews. And first, courtesy review will be 6A, item 6A on your agenda, 16175 Birmingham Highway. Would that applicant please come forward?
Supplements to the design and color and
Thank you.
this is,
Thank you.
this was on board for 30 days. They come.
Yes, we understand. We saw you all last month. 2 of our members weren't here, and we asked the applicant to give us some renderings and colors on what the exterior would be. And so we might take one moment and ask the board to look over this handout since we're just receiving it. So with that, we'll open the meeting, and Mr. Applicant, you can tell us your story.
Good evening. How are you doing?
We're good.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we came before you last month on an application that we had originally applied for a permit, basically trying to grandfather in an existing house on a property that's in need of repair. When we realized that it was partially in the buffer, primarily the impervious. The house is just in the impervious buffer, and then a small bit of a retaining wall is in the stream buffer. And so what we were trying to do was obviously reform, rehab, repair the house, and get it better than its original state. And I, as the owner, have debated whether we would sell it on the open market or whether we'd live here. So trying to look and see what we can do there. We did have a shed that was in the buffer that wasn't consequential to the house, so we're looking at removing that to try to, preserve the character and intent of the buffer and try to remove what we can. The retaining wall, considering it's embedded in the dirt and it's only like, a 4-inch exposure for 7 feet, that would destroy too much of the buffer to remove it. So that's the only reason we're asking for that, or we would be outside of the stream buffer. We do have this set up, within a financial structure to rehab it and work it through. So, in the current economy, trying to avoid financial hardship for it, we're just trying to repair the house and bring it back better than it was and bring it up to Milton's design and intent for the overall community. I think when we came through, we had neighbors, all the neighbors except for Perry Homes, which we've not been able to get a hold of them, but it's the developer that's going to tear down their house. to the north, but we had everybody else's approval. And then we only had one person come in and make comments, and that was Judy Birds, which I've talked to her 3 or 4 times, and she did email the staff, which they have an email from her. Basically, she just wanted a little bit more design since she does live in the adjacent neighborhood and wanted to see that. So she asked for some renderings, and we've kind of brought some samples of some items, but basically that's where we are. We wanted to come back to you and say, we did everything you asked for before, and then in addition, with public comment, we said there was nobody in opposition, but she did ask for a couple of items which we delivered to staff.
All right, so staff, have you heard from Judy?
Yes, I have an email and she would like it to be read to the record. So this is Judy Birds, private citizen and a nearby neighbor, 1165 Brim Drive. She's saying, members of a DRB, the applicant did reach out to me after the last DRB meeting. I encouraged him to work with the city staff on design that would have enough architectural detail to provide the desired curb appeal along our rural viewshed area. I do see in the packet for 11/1, that's today's, that he has submitted elevations including proposed addition. I leave it to your judgment as to whether the proposed finishes meet the vision for the viewshed in the rural Milton overlay. As I understand, the BZA will further consider the variance, removal of the shed in the back setback, and addition request. I am working early. I'm working on early voting till 7:15 p.m. November 1st, and I'm unable to attend in person. I request this email to be read in record on the agenda item.
Okay. Is there any opposition tonight?
No.
Okay, hearing no opposition, I'm going to close the public hearing. First, thank you for letting us put this on hold for a month. You've got a lot more information here, and you've come back with the things that the board asked you to do. We just received this document, and I want to make sure this is in the public record because it outlines the standing seam metal roof is black, the roofing is charcoal, and the brick water table, the gutters are much better defined. So this becomes a very important document for the records on what we're supposed to receive on your application. So with this tendered into the record, what we ask you to do, I'm happy. I'm going to turn it over to the board for any discussion, or if they're happy, we'll see if we can get a motion. Board?
Just a courtesy review though, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a courtesy review, so we don't need a motion.
Right.
We'll do a
They
recommendation.
did give you the list ahead of time, the list of material and colors, and they did bring the samples also for you to see.
We're good with this if you tender this into the record.
Yep.
Okay? So we're going to make a recommendation, but first, let's let the board do any discussion they want to do.
Is this the actual house that's going to be built there, or is this just an example? of
No,
the-
that is,
No, go ahead.
so there's an existing
This one.
structure, and that's correct. That's exactly what's going to be built there.
They're renovating an existing,
Right, but I'm just wondering if this is what you anticipate the end product looking like.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, just looking at the 3D rendering, I like that, but this packet that we received today, is on point as far as the specific details as to what's going into that. Sometimes the renderings can get misconstrued. So, for me, with these new details entered into the record, I see no problem with it.
okay, so is there any other discussion on this? All right, our recommendation would be to ask the BCA to approve this with the understanding these are the colors and that BZA received these colors and the renderings that we've received, and we'd make a recommendation for them to approve. It's their decision. We only make recommendations. All right, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, next item is item 6B, 2080 Birmingham Road. It also is a courtesy review for BZA. So is the applicant here?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Reese of Brumlow Reese and Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia, 30004. I'm here tonight representing Danielle English in her application for a variance to allow an existing guest house to be in front of the primary. So as I'm sure you're all familiar with the City of Milton ordinance, which states that a guest house in the City of Milton must be less than 1,500 square feet of heated floor space and in the rear yard of the primary. So this property was part of the Dockery estate family that had many heirs and kind of a piece of property that was a little bit constrained. So when they subdivided back in the 60s, as the heirs got the property, there's some really odd-shaped properties. If you ever study the tax map for that area, you'll see kind of a crazy division, but that was how each one of the kids got their allotted piece of property. And back in the 60s in this area, people tried to build their houses as close to the street as possible. It was just the standard. And at the 1960s, when it was built, there were not zoning regulations for side setbacks or anything. So I've got a pre-existing house with a 6-acre tract of land that's about 85 feet wide with an existing house there. So I've got inherited problems, and we are trying to build a house in the back. And to do that, we have to bring the existing nonconformance into compliance. And to do that, it would require a variance. So you should have in your packet the site plan depicting the existing conditions, showing a proposed house in the rear, and pictures of where they've renovated. The house was in pretty bad shape when they purchased it, and they've made significant progress in dressing it up. So that's kind of the gist of the situation. I understand it's that you would just be making recommendations. So that being said, I'll be glad to try to answer any questions with us. The applicant is here with me. And hopefully we can get a recommendation for approval to kind of improve the situation in that area.
Okay, is there any opposition to this case?
No.
All right, hearing that, we'll close the public hearing. My comments first are normally we don't love flag lots, which this is, but we normally don't see a flag lot with 6 acres. And we're already on a flag lot looking at the house way up front. It's already there. The new house is way back on 6 acres. So I want the board to ring in here, but my leanings is to approve this. It's been there a long time. It's what we're seeing now for many, many years as we drive by. We're not going to see the other house. It's so far back. There's a bit of a hardship here. I don't disagree with you on the estate. And also, this was the way things were done a long time ago. So with that, I want the board to see if we can get concurrence and agreement or listen to what they want to do.
The intention is to keep the house after the rear house is constructed?
That is correct.
And you just bring the driveway into, I guess, the right of the house?
Yeah, it'll be, it'll be family members, because I'm sure you're aware that guest houses are not for rent in Milton ordinances. So we're just very constrained with the situation, with the property.
There is enough room for the driveway to go to the
Yes.
side of it?
Yes,
Do you need 12 feet or so?
yes.
You have to get an easement agreement for that? You don't if it's the same property owner, correct? And then I have a question too, really, just for my reference. Is this lot non-conforming as well because of its frontage at the road?
No, it's conforming.
It is to the AG1 zoning?
We just need 35 feet.
Okay, all right,
89.
okay. Yeah, you got it tucked in there pretty good.
All right, Doug doesn't have anything. Reed, you good?
I think we're going to see a lot of these, I would imagine, some of these larger parcels that are, I think we're seeing a lot of these. So I don't know if there should be any other standards moving forward that are set in place on how those front houses look aesthetically, if we allow them to be kept up front. But I really don't have any problem with this.
It's already there.
Yeah.
All right, with that, if we're in agreement, I think we are, our recommendation to BZA would be to approve this. It's a long-standing house. This could be a 35-foot wide flag lot. It's 89 feet. It's a 6-acre parcel, which is unusual, because if they tore this house down, they could build a new house on 1 acre. So we have 2 acres on 6 acres. Anytime we can do that in Milton, that's a plus. If we could get 2 houses per 6 acres, we'd all be happy.
One resident really too.
Mm-hmm.
One resident per 6 acres.
So we would like that to be in the recommendation, that there are some important issues here. It's 89 feet, not 35. It's 6 acres. The house has been there for more than 20 years before we were a city. It's what we see now. We're going to continue to see it, and we're not going to see the house in the back. So why not? And it's on 6 acres. So let's see if we can't get that approved. Okay. So we're done with 6B. Next case is 6C, 328 Phillips Road. The applicant here? It's our favorite applicant.
There you go. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Scott Reese with Brumlow Reese and Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia 30004. I'm here tonight representing the Wright family in their application for a variance to allow an existing guest house to be in front of the primary, and also to bring into compliance the nonconformity of the existing residents inside the City of Milton stream buffer ordinance, the 50-foot buffer and the 75-foot impervious setback. So, small little history lesson. So we're on the 3rd generation of the Wrights. Charles Sr. Worked for Dr. John R. Walker, who owned Summit View Farms, the big Angus cattle farm that was on Summit Road, Brittle Road, Phillips Circle, and Wood Road. And then also he had a farm over on Big Creek. But so Charles Wright Sr. worked for him, and then Dr. Walker's passing ended up with this 10-acre parcel. And then his son, Charles Jr., got his parcel and built his house. And at the time, it was completely compliant when he constructed the house. And then the family built a lake. And when they built the lake, they unbeknownst to them, they were creating buffers and setbacks. So Charles Wright Jr. and his wife have, as all happens to all of us, have progressed in age a little bit, and they need help to stay on their property. And their son and his partner, and able to keep the family together there on this piece of property that's been in the family for many, many years, are seeking to build a house on the property. When we first met with them and came into the city, we were looking at building or adding on to the existing residence. And as you'll notice where it's located, we were going to impact greatly the stream buffer variances. It was staff's learned opinion that would we be better off to propose a new residence in the rear, that residence itself is completely compliant with the existing City of Milton ordinances. So to facilitate or to make the best situation out of what we have here, it was decided between the family and the city and I, and that this would be the path of least resistance and the best for the community. So if you look at your site plan, you'll see that the proposed residence is completely within the building codes now in existence for the city of Milton. So we're trying to bring the existing house that's been there for some 40 years into compliance as the rules have changed. At the time it was built, it was in compliance. Now it's not. So that's kind of the gist of that one. Once again, I'll be glad to try to answer any questions that you have. The Wright family is here with us tonight, so hopefully anything that I can't get it, that they can fill in the gaps. Thank you so much.
All right, so is there any opposition to this?
No.
Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. On this one, first, Scott, how many total acres are here?
So the family estate is 10 acres. The Charles Wright Jr. property is 3 acres.
So we're on 3 acres.
Yes.
With an existing residence that you
Correct.
described. Okay?
Yes.
So again, 1 acre lots, we got 3 acres, so we got 1.5 acres per house. We've set a precedent. We've got an existing 40-year-old house sitting here in violation of all the codes, which did not exist when the house was built. Therefore, it's our precedent and history to leave that alone and get it brought into compliance, allowing another house to be built in the back that meets all the codes. So to me, there's nothing here to really discuss, but let the board ring in and let's see what kind of recommendation we can send forward.
Is this acre minimums or 3 acre minimums?
Well, as you're aware, gravel roads are 3 acre minimums.
So there's
this
no
is
way
an
to
unpaved
subdivide
road.
that.
So it is the minimum lot for a gravel road.
Is that why you didn't re-subdivide, just subdivide it?
Yeah, I couldn't, that was, in a perfect world, I would have created 2 individual lots where they would have had fee simple ownership on the 2. My hands are tied there because I
do
can't
that.
decrease this 3 acre minimum. And I still was going to have problems with the pre-existing stream buffer variances that were there. But yes, I cannot create 2 lots that would, because once again, I've got the guest house in front of the primary, and would have been solved if
Still
I'd
lesser
had
of the
enough,
2
if I'd
equals.
had 6 acres on a gravel road
Yeah.
or 3 acres on a paved road, but my hands are tied there.
Okay, great point, Reed, that it is on a gravel road. That's a very good point. All right, any other discussion? All right, hearing none, I think our motion is, our recommendation needs to be lengthy to BZA. They may or may not know all these points. Existing residents, 40 years. We want to bring it into compliance by giving them the variances because it's already there. And then we do have a 3 acre lot, and the new house will meet all the codes. So there's no reason not to grant them these hardships and these variances, in my opinion, and I think the board's opinion, right?
Yeah, I mean, didn't make it easy for you, did it?
It was a little tough.
I think I kind of went through as I was reviewing the packet, there were so many different ways you could split in the lots, and then all those pieces came together. Like, well, this is really kind of the best outcome. It just unfortunately requires quite a bit of permission to do it. So
Yeah, I would like to thank staff because this one was when we first came in, and because the first option was they wanted to be very close to their parents as health issues would arise, but it just didn't work. And this was the best solution for the situation that we had.
Actually, there's nothing wrong with this solution. There's an existing old house that
Yeah.
needs to be in compliance, and they're gonna build a new house. So, and we're still more land than 1 acre lots. So there's our recommendation. Thank you. Thank you all for coming in,
thank you.
and good luck with your new house, and you'll sleep better in compliance. All right, next case before us is 7A. We're going to move from courtesy reviews to final reviews, and we will be voting on these final reviews. So we're moving to 7A, and that is 32 Heritage Walk in the Market District, Building 3, Suite 101. And do we have an applicant here?
So I don't see the applicant here. I don't know why. They maybe forgot. But,
Let's do this. Let's table it for 30 days and then they'll be here next month.
yes, that's appropriate, but I just wanted you to have a look at it and let us know if this is what you kind of, like it or not, because this is different.
I'd rather not get into it
Okay.
and if we're not going to have a public hearing.
That's fine.
And so if we're going to table it, let's do it all in public hearing next month. So can I get a motion to table this case for 30 days?
Make a motion, table the case 7A for 30 days.
Get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So this is table. We might all think about this. I'd like to ring in on this if I may. We are the design review board. And I know, Ken, you might want to have this discussion for next month. It's not about this case. It's in general, if we approve awnings, then we've set a precedent and we're going to be having to approve them everywhere. And when you hang those things on a building, they become the building and the design. In the third or fifth year, they're weathered, they begin to look bad, and they're a problem. If it's a real successful restaurant or bill or use, then they take care of them, probably replace them. If it's not, they get ratty. I lived 35 years in Sandy Springs, and we have a lot of ratty, not well taken care of things like this. So next month, when we hear this, there's more than this case. If it's your pleasure to approve awnings, which have a lot of good ideas, I, for one, enjoy Union with its awnings, with their heaters and everything. But maybe we need a little more design to these awnings. Maybe we need to say they have to be weighted at the bottom. We don't want them flapping in the wind. We had that case recently right here in Crabapple with awnings flapping around and TVs out there. And so as we do patios, which are great, we all love, and we want to think about TVs, other things out there that change the architecture and these awnings and what we want to see. So maybe if the board could spend the next 30 days thinking about that, looking at pictures, bringing ideas, because we've just had this problem here at the roundabout on those beautiful buildings with draperies hanging, flapping in the wind, and TVs at night. And so this is seems like there's always a new problem every few months that we need to think about.
Well, we already approved the structure itself,
Yes, we
correct?
did.
With the roof and everything. So this is
They're changing
changing it
But
from a permanent metal and steel structure to a aluminum canvas flapping in the wind.
Sure, but I didn't get 7A in my packet.
well,
You didn't get this one?
No, I never saw it.
Oh, I don't know, but we had it like many copies.
I mean, we're
so-
tabling it, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'll see it
Oh,
next
okay.
time, but
Oh, yeah, we
Thanks.
definitely will see it.
so, and Ken's right, we approved a permanent metal structure. Now, if you wouldn't mind checking with them, I'm assuming, and would have gotten into this, that the metal structure in the roof is still there. They're just hanging the curtains on the side.
They haven't built anything yet.
Okay.
They're just changing the design and.
No, from the looks of it is they're wanting to switch the roof to now the
Yeah.
canvas, which has the side awnings. Because I thought that too. It says where they're keeping the metal and steel roof and then just putting essentially curtains. Is there an ordinance from just putting like wind screens in there as long as the structure is approved, right?
Well, so this is, we've been having this discussion for a long time, and Bob said that it really doesn't comply with any of the architectural styles that we allow here.
I agree.
So you guys really have to make the decision to, let us, maybe you can start this telling us that we really don't want this so that we can have that in the code, because right now we do not have anything that says that this is prohibited. That's the reason they can come in and ask for things.
All right, let's do
Well, that's
this.
why we have
makes
this board.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do this.
Can we move it through? I'm sorry, without them here, or does the applicant
No,
have to be
let's
here?
not do that.
Okay.
So, but we did have a discussion. We are in session and we have a majority. Would we go ahead and take Ken's input here and give you as staff some direction that we're not going to approve? They agree, that if the board agrees, we're not going to approve canvas roofs, that they already have approval for a metal roof and a structural roof and columns. That they have already, they can keep that, but we're not going to approve next month, I don't think, a canvas roof.
Well,
Does that, can you go back with that input to them?
I can, but what I would like you to tell us that you want to start a text amendment or something like that. So the code change where we can actually add the prohibited kind of language that prohibits this kind of structure.
All right, we'll give you that. We want you, do we agree? I don't want to speak for the board. Do you agree?
I don't know. I haven't even seen it.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh.
yeah, it's,
And you
But
weren't here.
you mean to,
they might still come back because we don't have that in the code.
It's not in the code yet.
You could add a stipulation in there that says a temporary structure, because that aluminum kind of welded aluminum channel and canvas top is a temporary or removable structure, not a permanent structure like this steel and metal roof. I don't know. Suggestion, I guess.
I hate to set this up, but we're sort of between a rock and a hard place. We did discuss it. The applicant isn't here, so we really can't take any action. So they're going to come next month. But I think you should let them know that probably this is going to get denied. And then let's all think about how we feel. And next month, if we vote to approve or deny, let's get clear and get them started on a text amendment that awnings have to be permanent metal structures. These are really fortress, beautiful, fantastic, big 100-year buildings.
Mhm.
And we don't want 5-year awnings roofs out there. The board may get to where they approve the curtains for winter with some design, but certainly not the structure. Okay, so that's a little bit of homework time for all of us to be prepared to discuss it, and it'll help the applicant if they just kind of know where our mood is for next month. Okay, so now we have some new business,
Yeah,
and that new business is for the board to review and approve, if you so desire, to approve the schedule for next
Yeah,
year.
you don't have to approve it unless you want to.
This is it.
This was just a draft.
telling
She's
us.
just telling
See ya.
us.
But
That
wait a
is
minute,
it.
wait a minute. I would think the board, if it did review something and wanted to deny it or send it back for
Change it,
further
yeah,
work, we
let us-
could.
yeah.
So let's don't say we can't do
Yeah.
anything. So we do have this before us. It's been presented by staff. And does the board have any issues with this? Okay. With that said, then I think we're unanimously agreeing to it, approving it, or whatever you want to call it. But thank you. And we
Yeah,
now have a
yeah.
schedule for next year.
So next month, you can actually vote on it and approve it.
Oh, we can't vote this month because
You
it's new.
can vote. I don't mind you voting on this month if
Well,
you
let's
want
knock
to.
it out so we don't.
What is that deadline for? I mean, really, it's not for us, but the deadline of the 27th to the 3rd from December to January, is that enough time for you guys to put y'all's packets and all that stuff together, get them delivered out to us? It just seems like
Which one?
The
It's
12/27.
Oh, the top one?
12/27 to 1/3. I mean, that's going to be over
over
But
break.
that's what
Year.
we've done every year.
New Year. Okay. I mean, for me, it's fine, right? But I'm just
We-
saying for,
It's a
Yeah.
Tuesday, 27th.
All right, so can I get a motion to approve this?
motion.
Get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so it's done.
Putting it on my calendar.
And now you can make up your
Just have
calendar.
something real quick before.
Yeah, can I
we
have
begin.
that? Can I keep this?
Of
Yes.
course.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
good. I'll keep that so I can go ahead and plug it in.
Would you please email Doug this package on these awnings so he's seen it?
Yeah, yeah.
Make that note, and one of you please get it to him
You
so
have
he's looked at
Just
it
give to him.
for 30 days, so he's where he needs to be.
Oh.
There you go. Faster than email. It's like the old days when you hand it out.
Yeah.
So that's good. So Doug can study that. And I'm glad, Shuby, you brought up the text amendment. So we really do want to get that discussed next month.
I have something just real fast, sorry, before you make a motion to
Sure.
adjourn. I just have a question,
Go ahead.
whenever it's appropriate.
It's appropriate.
The guest houses that are being approved in the front, I just want to make sure that as we see these, this will probably become more common. And it's certain, I've seen more of them lately, people not tearing down houses and whether there are family members staying in them or they're renting them out or whatever they're going to do with them. These places, at least the one that we made a comment on last round, they're going to have separate driveways. They may have separate fencing. I don't know if they have separate mailboxes. It's the same property, but sometimes I've seen A's and B's and things like that.
They should not be able to get a separate address.
Well, I see them with separate mailboxes around. Now, it's okay. I'm not saying that it's wrong or right. I just want to make sure that we're looking at it from all angles, whether there needs to be some additional thought that goes into just
Here's what
approving
you're
these
seeing
places.
out there. If you look at my property, I've got a separate mailbox for my flag lot in the barn. But I got a separate driveway and mailbox for the other ones because I subdivided it. And when you're seeing two, it's been subdivided because the city and the county have to give you that address. You just can't put up a mailbox. And you can't get an address close to them. I mean, there's not an exception. But I think that's what you're seeing is that has been subdivided.
Well, I don't care necessarily about how many mailboxes are on the road. I just want to make sure that when we're thinking through this, we're thinking through it fully. And if we're going to approve and make comments on approving a guest house, which is not an ordinance to remain on the property, who cares if it's built in the 20s or 30s or whatever, that we're just thinking through it wisely instead of just.
What is wisely, are you thinking the guest house is a bad idea? You don't want to see it rented? What's your thinking?
Is the concern that someone's going to come and the house is on the back of the property, they're going to say, now I want to build a guest house in the front. So-and-so was able to, has that.
I don't really know that I have any concerns besides that instead of just pushing these through that we've thought about it on all angles. If we are an aesthetic board largely, and I don't know if there's aesthetic requirements that we should impose on some of these instead of just approving a 1970s ranch that's kind of falling apart. Maybe they rent it out, maybe they don't. What are they going to use it for when mom and pop dies? Is it just going to stay there? I don't know. I just think it feels like there's probably additional thought that needs to be
Yeah.
questions that need to be asked. And I don't even know what the questions are. It just
Well,
feels,
the last one that we did, that structure was 100% in the stream buffer. So even if they demoed that house, they'd still have to come in front of board, right? And then they could never do anything to it.
Was it completely?
I don't really have any concerns about any of the cases that we have. I just want to make sure that we're asking ourselves the right questions so that 10, 15, 25 years down the road, we don't look back and say, oh, that was a mistake.
Are you suggesting that we should be able to, like the flag lot that was presented tonight, that we should be able to say that house that remains close to the street that you can see, we should be able to put our thumbprint on what that looks like, even though it's existing?
I hate to put additional regulations on people. Again, I'm just trying to forward think.
Is yours
I was
about,
thinking about that too, like aesthetic.
You don't have a bunch of, like, old-
Because it looked pretty
This
run
this
down.
is a good example. And you may remember it. Across from Scottsdale Farms, there's a big property where they built a huge barn at the back of the property, and it looks like it's a house, but it kind of looks like a barn. In the front, there's an old 1970s ranch where
Yes.
it looks like somebody works out in the carport,
Mhm.
right?
Yes, yes.
It's aesthetically, it's not very attractive. Again, I don't want to impose on people and tell people what they can and cannot do, but it looks like garbage.
so there's two
And it's out of
issues
code.
for us to think about.
It's out of code.
There's one, the aesthetics, as you say, on a house. And in some of these, they're not changing them, so we don't have the ability to say redecorate it or redo it.
That's what I was gonna ask, is if we have the authority to do that.
So some we don't. So to your point, as we get these during the few days before the meeting, think through, is the request where we have the authority, and we did last month when you weren't here. This guy got tabled because I just wanted to see what the house was going to look like. And we weren't going to give him approval till we saw the exterior. It was a shack.
But to Reed's point, we could recommend it to BZA contingent upon something being done with that front house.
Well, here's what you got. You got this huge, nice house.
Yep.
That's sort of peeking over a 1970s house. Instead of the view shed being a nice lawn leading up to a big house, you've got this.
We could do that, right?
You can. BZA, again, I was going to finish. We've got the architectural, and they're going to listen to us on that. But then we got the codes. You correct me, Shuba, if I'm wrong, that you can't have these in front of another house. In most of these cases, they're trying to build another house. And that's what's going on, is they want to keep what we got. They're not supposed to rent it. You're clear they're not supposed to be renting these.
Mhm.
They're a guest house, a family house, your teenager's house, whatever. So we got the legal, and then we got the architecture, and then many of these are about the creek buffers and bringing them current. There's generally 2 or 3 variances going on. If you'll look at these cases tonight, and the one house was staying where you do have authority, is they're wanting to build another house, and it's illegal in Milton to have a guest house in front of another house.
Right.
You can put a barn in front of another house. You can put your barn in your front yard if you want, and that's encouraged.
Well, I agree, but we're sort of leaning on the basis, like, well, the house has been there for 40 years. Let's let it be. I don't know if that's a good thing.
Well, the point being I'm getting to is, if they really want the new house in the back, you could say, we'll approve the variances and things you need for the new house, but you got to tear down the rundown, ugly house. I think that gets into a lot of heartache.
I don't want to put heartache on people as much as anybody else does. I'm just thinking,
Or some basic things just
I don't
to
think we have the
keep it
authority.
looking, if it's like a
say-
decrepit.
Yeah.
We don't have the authority to say redecorate, it looks bad. We don't have that authority unless they're working on a permit for that house.
I just figured we had the authority to make any kind of comments we wanted to if they had a variance.
I mean,
No,
we
We
could
can make the comment.
We can make the comment, and we could request to deny the variance unless it's done. And then BZA could go, we're going to approve this variance. However, you have to do this per DRB. Like, that could happen.
And you can start asking them to, that guest house is actually in a livable condition, or you're gonna bring it to the livable condition.
Well,
And,
something to
Or
think
up to
about.
certain
You
standards.
should drive by some of these. I don't know if you have any.
Reed doesn't want it to be an eyesore.
Well,
I
the one-
agree,
the one
yeah.
you're talking
It
about.
defeats the purpose of the whole code at some point.
On that last one where I asked if you said it was just 35 foot was what was needed for frontage. So technically that was AG1, it was 6 acres.
They could do
They
subdivision.
could tear down that house in front and basically separate that and because they could
They can have
build a
2 flag
bridge
lots up
over the
there.
stream,
Yeah.
and there was about 4 acres of property in the rear. So down the line, they couldn't do anything to that house now if the variance is granted, except for tear it down, right? That's kind of the
But they
case.
could have just
No,
subdivided that
it's
lot.
not really, because the variance is for the guest house. They can still tear it down. But when it's gone, it's gone. The guest
But when
house
that
is
one's
not there.
gone, could they come back and build another one?
Not the guest house,
Mm-mm.
not at the same location, because then they
Okay.
would need a variance.
No,
for-
they could
Right.
still double the flag line. They could still put one on the back.
Right,
They're
but not in
building
the
that
same
front
place.
right
Yeah,
corner.
well, that's
They
what
could
I
put
would
it on
do,
the back left.
right? I
But to be
mean,
honest, I think their back was all.
yeah, I mean, they can
buffers,
cross
so
the
that's-
stream with a driveway and tear down the guest house in the front and then basically split that into 2 45-foot wide lots.
I guess Reed's question is, that may be desirable if that house on the front is an eyesore,
Here's what,
right?
where I
Reed,
think,
is that fair?
here's where we're going to get legally to get, Reed's got a great point. So this kind of becomes our precedent, getting your idea handled, because you got a good idea. I think when these come before us, they're wanting something important. They want to hang on to something and put 25,000 in it and have a $100,000 house for kids or whatever. They want that. And then they want the new house in the back or whatever they want. Then let's make our recommendation that we'll vote to approve this, going with what Doug said, but we're the design review board, and we would like this to come back to see us if it's approved and upgrade the front of this or whatever you want done with it. And that would be a way, both of you had these points, that we could legally get on record, because when we send it to BZA, it's got to be something they can enforce and do, because they are quasi judicial and they're at a higher level than we are. So we have to give them something they can do. And that would be that we'll have to do a better job of looking at these things and getting pictures of them. And if it really needs what you're right, most of them need, it is what we're going to see all the time. My point was, we're seeing it now, so we'll approve it, but that's probably a bad answer. You have the better answer. If we give you these variances, DRB recommends that this house be brought up to more current standards. And remember, 2 or 3 years ago, some people were taking barns and garages in the back and making them into guest houses. And we made them bring that old garage with fancier doors and porches. Remember those? We had a couple cases where DRB exerted our influence and they did bring them up and put porches on them and make them much prettier than just an old garage in the back. So your point's a great one, both of you. And that should be our precedent, is you look at these issues.
Kind of late. But we have a community burger applicant. Would you like to consider?
No, I've been over this with the city, the public hearing's closed for that case, and we postponed it to next month.
This is probably for the first one, or are you?
That's
here for
the last
mark-
one, the design
Market
community
District?
burger, the one that I gave.
Yeah.
I thought that it was strange that it had been scheduled.
Shub, I went over this with Bob, that when they're not here, they're not here. And I went over with Steve a month ago. So you guys have got a great point, and
Well, so
now you got to stand behind your idea.
no. I'm
You're not
saying,
gonna- you're not gonna whip out on your idea, are you?
we have a mutual friend that had a guest house on the property, and over time, those guest houses just, they just, if you don't tear them down and nobody's living in them, they look like, they can really deteriorate fast.
Yeah.
Okay, so mom and dad dies, and now what do we got out here?
So that, I wanted to ask them that, but I wasn't going to ask them that. Because they said that
They can't rent it out.
Well, they can't rent it out, but they said that their parents were in bad health, right? They wanted to be closer to help them. But I wasn't going to ask the question like, hey, what's going to happen when your parents pass
What are you gonna
away?
put in it?
Yeah.
I think the reality is they're building this brand new big giant home on 3 acres. And the reality is they would probably tear that house down.
Because the
Yeah.
grandson is going to inherit that. and he's gonna
Correct.
have
They're
a
all
new house.
hypotheticals, but they,
Well,
a lot of
yeah,
times they don't
so-
get it.
Well, but would they tear it down? I mean, that's
Well, here's
an
where-
expense. that
Here's where your authority
we
is.
should not worry about.
We're not, we can't legally go, are they going to tear it down? We can't ask that question. What are you going to do when your parents die?
Yeah.
Right.
So we can't go there
I'm
legally.
just
Morally, I
saying,
wasn't gonna
what
ask
you're
that
always
question.
encouraging us to do is to think 10, 15, 20 years down the road, how do we best protect Milton with the decisions? we're making, Right? So maybe we do scrutinize more, what does that building look like? Or what must that building,
I think you first go to, can they subdivide it? Because I think that the first case, they could have subdivided that lot.
Well, I think that's a good point Ken made, is 2 flag lots, 3 acres apiece, more Milton, or one house with a guest house in the front, more Milton. And then
This is a great discussion that you two have had, and a great waking up read of, yeah, we're working with them, but I think you should exert your influence architecturally. And if it's 40 or 50 years old and it's looks run down, you should tell BZA that we want to see this brought up to standards if they're going to get the variance. If BZA elects to give them all these variances, it's protecting Milton and protecting the neighbors if these structures are brought up to a better
Yeah.
status. And that BZA shouldn't grant that without the consideration that they bring this up to code.
Because that second house, I don't even think you can see it from the road.
Well, you can, I mean, it's right there. It's only a 3-acre lot on Wood Road, right at the
Wait,
corner
which
of
one are you
Phillips.
talking about?
Not the first
Phillips
one.
Circle. Phillips
The
Circle.
Phillips
Well,
Circle.
it's basically
Circle one?
Wood and Phillips. I mean, that's where it is. It's on that
You'll
corner.
see it.
Okay.
You-
I run up and down there. You'll see it.
we've had a great discussion. Think about it some more, but I do encourage you to begin to ask what you ask on each applicant and be concerned about what it looks like. Your thing about the ranch over by the,
I didn't mean to be so
Let's-
harsh on that property, but it's just a good example.
I love what you've awakened us up to, and all of you should continue to ask that question anytime there's an old house out in front of a new house, or anytime there's an old house that we're going to give a bunch of variances to accomplish their goals. You can legally ask those questions because you're DRB, and that's your concern, and that's what we're charged with doing. And you brought up something, in 4 years, I've always thought about, is this something okay? And because we legally, if that case isn't before us about that house, but your point, and Doug, your point is, our recommendation is based on doing something with that house or turning it down, which if BZA hears us clearly, and I'm probably going to call the chairman of BZA and tell him this came up and this is an interesting thought, is that you're going to see us recommending to work with somebody on variances if
With a contingency.
they fix these old houses.
Well, if I had a house on my property that was approved guest house, the front of my property my parents were able to live in, when they passed away, I had limited options on what I could do with it. I would use it as storage.
What else would you do with it?
So,
I mean, really?
but-
Because what are your options?
The BZA.
Yeah, you
could
don't have
still
many.
I don't know.
say that, though, could they not? They could still say, yes, we're going to approve this. However, we're approving it. And then the primary structure or the front guest house will need to be updated and must be subject to approval from the DBR or the DRB.
They can have that.
So they can make that, so we can say, look, yeah, we're cool with the BZA approving
This
the
plan.
house in the front and the variances and stuff. And then the BZA could just say, yeah, we take their recommendation. We're going to go ahead and approve this, but we want you to come up with some designs to, redo the front facade of that and then go back to the DRB for that front guest house.
The great thing about your conversation, Reed, is had we done that tonight, they want to keep it. Mom and dad are going to live there, and he wants to build a new house, and he can't do that without all these approvals. We could have gotten this done tonight on that house that's sitting right out in that 89 feet that we're all going to look at forever. And I did a poor job.
Well, I wasn't I knew there was something hanging in there. I just couldn't think of what it was. So I just.
Well,
here's
we
topping
may not
this
be
out.
done though, because BZA is going to hear all this and they're going to
That's
go, you know what,
correct.
that's a great idea. And they may kick it back to us anyway.
Yeah, and I'm going to call them and tell them we've just come up with this thought. I did a poor job by saying, let's work with them because it's there. It's been there 40 years. We're seeing it. And here was an opportunity, as you point out, to fix it or to improve it.
Well, it may look just fine. It's just a thought.
There's gonna be a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a lot of.
Yeah.
It's conflicting to me because I'm a property rights guy, right?
Yeah, me too.
But-
I wanted
Same.
to do the thing.
Yeah.
But
Same.
that's the other, then you have to think, okay, then are we, and not to harp on it, but all right, then to what extent
Yeah, I mean,
do we
it's
want
real
to see,
complicated.
right? Do we want a full makeover?
Sorry.
Or do we want to
Put the
paint
can
it?
of worms.
Yeah.
Drag it out.
Right?
Right.
It's not at
You gotta put new
6:35.
windows in, you
Can
gotta
I
put
get a-
window grills, I mean.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Yeah,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Did I get a second?
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Motion adjourned.